a conversation starter of some sort. I don't have anything like top of mind. Anything top of mind for either of you?
We had a first person join Team Stand Up yesterday in the Apple Vision Pro.
Oh,
Mm,
I'm like the
interesting.
biggest fan.
Yeah.
It's what a time to be alive.
yeah. How was
So
were you
all the
seeing
things.
their pretend face thing or yeah?
Yes,
How was it?
it's it's like the Barbie doll version of a person where like
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's them. But it's very polished. And it's also sort of like nearly headless Nick where it's like a floating body. It's like
Mhm.
clear what's happening, but it's fun.
Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
they don't do like a full on like immersive VR experience. I feel like the Quest did more of that where it's like full bodies in an environment. Apple's just kind of got like your avatar, I guess.
The way we do so the worst company experience in the world is boring team stand up where like everyone gives an update and no one's listening.
Mhm.
no.
And so how do you make team stand up fun? A, get the Apple Vision Pro involved, but B, we dropped doing stand ups altogether. We still call it stand up, but what we actually do is we just all hop into Zoom, we all stare at each other's faces, and then anyone who has something to screen share does so. And so it's really fun because it's all demos.
Mm.
And sometimes there's just one, and sometimes everyone has one. But it's super fun.
Yeah, I'm amazed that like more teams don't do more demos all the time. Like if you don't have something to demo, what are you accomplishing, right? At the end of the day, you should be building something, so show me, you know?
The hurdle we had to get over is people feel bad about wasting each other's time, which is great. Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
very
that's
nice. And so people think that their demo is sort of mundane or lame because they've shown something just a couple days earlier. How far along is it really? Or
Mm.
like I have like a tech spec to show. Is this demoable? But I think the truth is, no matter what you screen share, it's so exciting to everyone else to see it come together.
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, so anyway, highly recommend this format for stand up.
Yeah,
I think
and like
especially
to reinforce that point, it's not selfish. It's not, like bragging if you're showing something. It just helps everybody be on the same page about the work that's getting done.
100%. I remember there was one screen share in stand up where Oscar, an engineer on our team, just screen shared like our Google Cloud panel and was like, we upgraded Kubernetes and you can see the new version here. And like, okay, it's like 10 seconds, but everyone was excited. And he thought
Mhm.
like, first he was like, should I share this? And the answer is obviously like, yes, this is amazing to see.
I think that works really well too when you have a small team. So people are really aware of all the things that are going on regardless. So I think it's bigger if you're on or it's harder if you're on bigger teams where people aren't already aware and don't care about other things going on, but it's hard for anyone to do anything at a company so small that isn't relevant or affects some like almost everyone else in some capacity.
100%. I'm such a proponent of small teams for that. Like just everyone having context means that like
Mhm.
great ideas come out. It's sort of like building the company is sort of like one long conversation you're having. But also I just think that small teams are like able to accomplish so much more. There's just so much less overhead to doing things. I used to be a PM at Cloudflare, and
Mhm.
what I saw Cloudflare do, which I really liked, is if anything was really important, they actually put fewer people on it, not more, which is different than other big companies where if something's really
That's
important,
cool.
they put like 30 engineers on it on day one.
That's
Actually,
really cool because then,
yeah.
like, yeah, you can just move so much faster when there's less people
Mm.
involved. I also
100%.
like I also like teams who align vertically or horizontally. I don't know what direction things go in. Where like if you're building a project, you own the entire
That
vertical
vertical.
stack of
Yeah.
that project, right? Instead of being like, this team owns authentication and this team owns something else. And to get anything done, you have to collaborate with 15 other teams, you know? Don't get me wrong, there should always be kind of some core services, but a team should really be able to choose how they do their work and what they are allowed to change because too much red tape, man, it slows things down. If Atlassian has taught me nothing else.
That's really
Atlassian,
interesting, the, like, smaller the team for the more important thing, trying to like think through all the implications of that. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, I was just gonna say, I'm such an Atlassian fan. Like, I think it's sort of an amazing company. One of the things that I really admire about it is just how early they went multi-product.
Hmm.
Like, I talked to
Good
Yeah.
someone
stuff to
who,
do.
yeah, at 20 people, they were supporting 3 products.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Atlassian does have like a really good culture, honestly, and that's probably thanks to it being based out of Australia. So everybody's like pretty chill, easygoing, and there's definitely like a lot of fun vibes at the company. But lately, it's been growing. Before tech got really weird, they wanted to like double the workforce again to like 20,000 people. It's insane.
Oh wow. And they're at 10. You said double, so they're at 10 now, or we're at
They're at
10.
10 now. Yeah,
Okay. Wow.
yeah,
Gosh.
it's getting big.
Yeah. That's hard to believe. Um, are you two ready to officially kick off?
Never been more ready.
Oh yeah.
Good deal. I love the energy. Cool. If anybody is listening in, if you have questions or comments or anything, feel free to leave them in the chat. We will pay attention to bring those up as we go through. But that said, let me get the music ready. There we go. And then I'll go ahead and kick us off. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Compressed FM, a podcast all about web development and design with a little bit of zest. In this episode, we're going to talk with Dani Grant about starting a company, raising $1 million, and getting the first 1,000 users.
Web development and design, who would have guessed? Well, we can do them both, even add a little zest. So turn up the volume, get ready for the best. Let's get it started in this episode of Compressed.
What's up, everyone? My name is James Quick, and I am a developer, speaker, and teacher.
Hey, y'all. My name is Brad Garapi. I'm a front-end developer at Atlassian working on Confluence.
And
Brad?
today we're... sorry. So we still
Sorry.
have... this is
Here to
edit-
mess up your intros.
It happens almost every time where one of us jumps. So I'll do... I'll do the sponsor, and then I'll come back to you.
Sorry.
This is completely editable. For people that are watching live, this is what it's really like. And you have no idea how many of these things get edited out after the fact. So it's totally fine. All right. And today we are joined by an amazing sponsor in Convex. We actually did a full episode with Convex a few episodes back, but Convex advertises themselves as the full stack TypeScript development platform to replace your database, serverless functions, and glue code. And in the episode that we talked about how the inspiration for this is people that are building products don't need to write and create all the things for themselves. And that was kind of the inspiration for Convex to enable people to create products faster. So, excuse me. So we'll talk more about Convex halfway through the show, but thank you to Convex for sponsoring. And we are also joined with an amazing guest and Dani Grant. Dani, welcome to the podcast. Do you want to introduce yourself and tell people a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Thanks so much for having me here. I'm Dani. I'm one of the co-founders of Jam, and we help more than 85,000 people report bugs to engineers faster with all the details they need to repro and solve the bugs.
I love having the number there in that like definition statement is so powerful. Like we talk about that. Actually, we talked about this, Brad, with resume stuff, like having the number impact associated with the thing that you did or the thing that you accomplished. And you're easily able and quickly able to throw out the number of 85,000, which is super, super cool. Before we get into the product, I want to learn like a little bit more about your history and kind of build up to building the product of jam.dev and then growing that and all the things that you're doing now. So tell us a little bit more about your background. I think you worked at Cloudflare previously as a PM, maybe kind of work that in, and then we'll kind of evolve into where the idea for jam.dev came from.
I was so lucky. In my first job out of college, I got to join Cloudflare as the 4th product manager there. And I got to work with such incredible, super smart engineers. I got to see like a world-class management team at work. It was an incredible opportunity. And when the company got sufficiently big, they did something I thought was really clever, which is they said, we want to take risks as a company. Like we want to build a compute platform on our edge, for example, which is now Cloudflare Workers.
Mm-hmm.
But we want to do it in a smart way, where if we take risks and they don't work out, it doesn't like, we didn't derail the whole company. Basically, we need to keep doing what we do well, keep expanding, but off to the side, take big risks. And so they created a team off to the side based in Austin, to launch new businesses for Cloudflare. And so my now co-founder and I were the two product managers on that team. We worked with 30 engineers, and our job was to launch net new stuff. So we got to launch Cloudflare Workers. We got to launch 1.1.1.1, which now responds to a trillion DNS queries a day. It was unreal. And it was there trying to move super fast and ship stuff out the door that would just work great on day one with a small team, that we realized how much time and frustration was taken up between like us as PMs trying to communicate what needs to be fixed to engineers. And when you're in a company, you sort of have to crawl through glass to ship stuff out the door. You don't really get to be like, should we evaluate and improve our bug reporting process? Like, you don't have the moment to do that. And it really takes a separate company to rethink those things. And so that is Jam.
I'm really curious about the name. Why'd you call it Jam?
Yes. This is kudos to my co-founder. We did the product manager route to starting a company, which is on day one, you do 45 user interviews, or like in the first, few weeks. And the word we kept hearing over and over again, people were like, design jam, bug jam. And so my co-founder was like, should we call this Jam?
Easy. I love that. For people that maybe don't know the product manager role, and so two things: what did you study in college to then start in this role, and then what does a product manager role look like? Because I think we have a lot of people maybe that are already in tech or looking to get in tech, and they may not know about something like that, which is not writing code all day, but you are working with developer-facing products, depending on where you are. So having some of that knowledge is very beneficial. But what was your degree? How was that transition into a product manager, and what does product manager look like?
I got super lucky. I went to a really cool program for college where you did not have to declare a major until the very end. So there's this tiny school within NYU called Gallatin. There's 200 people in this school, like versus, 60,000 people who go to NYU. And it's a make your own major program. And what that means is that every single semester you get to change your mind and explore and go like take other classes. And then at the end, you say what the major was. This for me was so game changing, because when I started college, I didn't even know, okay, I'm from the Bay Area, but I hadn't really paid attention to like what my friends' parents do. I didn't really know about tech, besides like, I guess, being a user of Facebook, right? And and when you're growing up, you can only imagine the careers you really see. So like I saw like politicians on TV. I think at the beginning I thought I'll be a politician. I saw ads around me. I thought like, what a Mad Men fun life. I thought maybe I'll go into marketing or advertising. But like it really took a lot of exploration to be like, oh my gosh, I love this world of people who build software. So for me, that was game changing.
Wow. I can't. So my story is I got into the engineering school at Vanderbilt, and they asked me what I wanted to study. And I was like, I don't have any idea. I don't want to do a bunch of these things. I don't know what computer science is, but that sounds fine. And here I am like 15 years later, or however many years later. And I had no idea, right? So I didn't even get to base that decision on the experience of enjoying it. It just so happened that I did enjoy it after the fact. That's a really amazing idea and opportunity for people. Again, like at that age, very few of us really have clear direction on what we love and what we want to do.
100%. The other really like lucky thing is being in New York. There are startups around you, and there are people around you, like there are businesses around you. And so I made it a point every single semester to intern somewhere else, which and the benefit of that was what you study in college versus doing the same like field but as your profession is very different. Like going to an operating systems class is very different than being a front end engineer today working on Confluence. Like the two things are very different. And so if you don't try something out as an intern, you may end up in a field where actually turns out you don't like the day to day, even though you like the study of it. And getting to try stuff out, I got to see a lot of those things. So when I was first, well, I loved all the creative stuff. And so I used to be really into photography, and I would go and work for designers around New York and take pictures for them. Like if they were doing like a New York fashion show. I would be in the pit with all the photographers taking pictures for them. I did like an internship at a fashion magazine. And you know what I learned is that I really don't like fashion. Like it's not a world for me. And then I was like, okay, but this like Mad Men creator world. And so I went and did an internship at an ad agency, and it was amazing. But I learned that the day to day of it is actually not much like Mad Men, and it's probably not the profession for me. But then I did my first tech internship at BuzzFeed, and I loved it.
Cool
I loved
company.
every moment of it.
Yeah, that's cool. So like, what did they have you doing as an intern? And then when you got out, what was the transition into Cloudflare like? Was that a kind of one-to-one, like, okay, I did this as an internship and now I'm qualified to go be a PM? Because for some reason, when I think of like PM roles, I think of them as like a more senior role. PMs kind of have a lot of influence and a lot of control in the organization.
So as an intern, I don't think I did anything that impactful. Like I think I was, it's like data entry type roles, like just to support the organization. But what you do get access to is to see the people around you and ask them questions about what their day to day is like, and shadow them in meetings, and just try to get a sense of like, is this the life I want? One like pro tip for anyone listening is it's really hard to get internships. And the way that I used to do this is I would email like 200 people asking if they needed a free intern to work a day a week, or like 2 afternoons a week. When you apply online, the reality is it's sort of like it's a place where you'll never hear back. I don't know. I've never
Yeah.
gotten an opportunity from just applying online. Actually, that's not true. I got one, but very, very rare. And I think that the way to stand out is to send a really concise, like try to be really compelling in as few words as possible, cold email.
Dude. So how did you identify the people that you sent those emails to? Is it like shooting fish in a barrel or what?
So the game to play here, which I learned through trial and error, is you email the founder, or like if it's not a small company, then like the head of the department.
Mm-hmm.
And you say something true, like, I love what you're doing. I would love to contribute to it. I would love to learn from your team. Is there someone I can talk to within your department? Or is there someone I can talk to on your team about internship opportunities? And the reason for that being the ask is that all they have to do is forward. And as soon as you've been forwarded, you're in, because they think that the forwarding is like a request.
Yeah. Oh,
They're like,
that's awesome.
I will definitely talk to this person since so and so asked me to.
Yeah.
Wow, what a hack.
I did this for my first job too. So the way I got my first job is I sent out a bunch of cold emails, and in the cold emails I said, I'm about to graduate from NYU. Who on your team can I talk to about university recruiting? Because at a lot of companies they have like a recruiter who's in charge of new grads, and so then I would just get forwarded, and that was a lot easier.
Oh my gosh,
Nice,
game changing.
really good strategy.
Yeah, we've talked a ton on the podcast about a lot of the same things. Is like, how do you find that role, especially in the economy? Like, it's just so hard. You're seeing layoffs. You're applying blindly to a lot of places, and you're just not hearing back. And it's some little tiny bit of a connection that makes all the difference in the world. And there is one other hack to start to work at a company, and that is to build your own company. And I'll transition into now jam.dev. So you mentioned a little bit working as a PM at Cloudflare. You were kind of recognizing the struggles of communicating and showing, here are the things that are wrong, to technical people, to developers, and giving them all the details that they need, or whatever that process was. And you saw challenges in that. So what was kind of the moment where you thought, hey, I could go out and I could build something, or build a team that could build something to solve this problem? What was your thought process? How did that evolve?
Between Cloudflare and starting Jam, I went to go work at a VC firm called USV. And there I saw founders up close, really for the first time. And they inspired me so much. They found some problem in the world, and instead of waiting for someone else to solve it, they decided they would be the ones to figure it out, despite that being very difficult to do, and despite that requiring a lot of sacrifice on their behalf. And I just like seeing that over and over again. It's super inspiring. And so before that, I didn't really think like this was going to be the path. But once you see that, you're like, I also want to contribute back and build something for people who do what I used to do. And so I started talking to my former colleague, Urtifa. So we're the two PMs on that team at Cloudflare. And we started to think about how can we solve the problem we used to face. When, when you're building when you're building something within a bigger company, things are actually a lot easier. And I don't think we realize that on day one. Like working within an organization where you have other teammates, you have budget, you have brand recognition, you have product market fit, most importantly, existing happy users. It's a lot easier than doing things on your own. And so when we first started, we were trying to solve this like product engineering communication problem, but we didn't know how. And so we did all these user interviews. We launched a first attempt and like crickets. We're like, okay.
That's good to hear. I think this is something people need to know is like we always look at like the overnight success story, right? Or we just always look at where somebody is and they're like, oh my gosh, like how lucky they are to be here, how great that they've done this, whatever that is. It's great to hear like it wasn't just an automatic thing. So I'd love to hear more about like like how did you respond to that mentally and then what did you do next?
So we tried again
Yeah.
and more crickets. So we launched 7 failed attempts and the 8th one took off. And it took, it was 18 months with no results, with nothing to show for it. Um, it was it was very tiring, not that fun. I'm so happy we kept going because after that 8th attempt, the eighth one turns out that's the form factor of the product that
Wow.
works. And within less than 2 years, there are now 85,000 people using it. They're creating 250,000 jams a month. It's growing really fast. Like it's just a different world. And so, yeah, overnight success that only took 18 months of like pure failure.
So during each iteration of these failures, of these attempts, was this essentially the same product? Was it Jam, just V1, V2, V3, V4, or were you trying like different angles of different kind of products or approaching it in a different form factor or something like that?
Yeah, we kept trying like, what if we solve the problem like this? The thing
Uh,
is like it's a people problem that's never had a product solution to it. And so you don't know what the product solution should be. The first attempt we did, we were like, okay, what if we gave engineers like JavaScript to put on their staging site that would sort of
mm,
transform it into a collaborative surface where you can like work on top. And as as good of an idea we thought that was at the time, what engineers really don't want is to add JavaScript to their staging site when a PM
Yeah.
asks. So
Yeah.
that one did not get far. We tried all sorts of things. One version we tried was we said, what if you did not have to collaborate? What if we gave you sort of no code tools to make like UI tweaks and submit that as a PR to engineers without even having to go back and forth? Like, what if we empowered the PM to do that? But what was possible then, it was so small compared to the changes that people would really want to make that like actually to do a high quality thing like it anyway, that also doesn't work. The thing that works, so the thing that Jam is today is it's an extension in your browser that when you, the PM, you see a bug, you just click on Jam. It grabs the last 30 seconds of what just happened on your screen, played back like a video, plus everything in the console logs, the network requests. You can see them on the timeline. Then we have like a debug, like a DevTools panel on the side too. It grabs everything about the session and the device and the user ID, just everything, and it packages it into a ticket or into a link. So then the engineer just opens it up and they see everything, and then they can just fix the issue without having to ask you a follow-up question.
Nice. And you said like it can package it up into a ticket or a link. Do you integrate with services like let's say GitHub or Jira or things like that to track that work, or how does that go?
Exactly. Basically, we make it possible so that you can do like a full staging QA round, and create a bunch of Jira tickets that all have all the information for engineers, but
Oh,
never
that's
have to
great.
go to Jira to do it. Like you don't have to open a new tab. What PMs will tell you is as soon as they open up the Jira tab, they get distracted with all the other notifications and things there, and
Mm.
they just totally forgot what the first task was, and it makes something really basic like quickly testing a new feature on staging actually just take like the whole day or the whole afternoon.
Does the jam product kind of show a list of jams for a given page or website or something like that, or are those always kind of tracked elsewhere?
It's interesting. We thought they would always be tracked elsewhere, but it
Hmm.
turns out that a lot of tracking is happening very informally. So, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you've worked on software teams, you know, even if the rule is everything goes in Jira, not everything goes in Jira because
Yeah,
day
for
to
sure.
like if it has to go in a backlog, it goes to Jira. But if it's just day-to-day stuff, a lot of it is happening in like a Notion or in a Slack channel or just like in Slack DMs. And so actually a lot of that tracking is happening a lot less informally than we originally thought.
Sweet. And how are you guys gathering metrics on stuff like that?
What do you mean? Oh, like
Like in a sense, like whether it be like how many jams are created, or maybe how many views they have, or you must have like information about that.
For example,
yeah.
there's like on the homepage, there's the 1,652,288 jams created by 85,000 happy jammers, if that helps.
We put a jam counter. I think it's just in the millions. I think it's 1.5, but one day we'll 10x and get there. But so we track metrics. We use a couple tools. One is called Hex.tech. Great, like it's like Jupyter notebooks for product teams.
Hmm.
We use Metabase, which is just visualize stuff from our database as graphs. But most importantly, we review all of our charts as a full team every single Monday. So my co-founder leads that. And that way we think that like teams closest to the truth are the ones that win. And so we want to make sure everyone sees everything going on. So that way, if there's any important information that it gets surfaced, like not more than a week late.
Oh, I love that quote, and I totally want to like we should post it on the channel or something. Teams closest to the truth are the ones that win, I think is what you said. That's like a really great mentality. And I think it's like bottled up in larger companies as things like OKRs, right? Here's a number that needs to move or something. But like even then, those numbers are they may not be representative of the truth. If you really know how your real product and your real users are actually behaving and performing, and you're in tune with it, that's how you know you can move that needle. It doesn't come down to one number or an SLA or a response time. So A plus, that's really cool.
There are things that we do to make sure that we get intel on for so here's an example. Every single week I reach out to the top 100 users from the week before and ask them, hey, just checking in, how are things going? And from that we get a ton of information, both good and bad. People will tell us like, here's what I love, and they'll tell us, please fix this one thing, please add this one feature, right? um, and this is super important. I take those responses, I put them into an internal Slack channel we have called Users Say the Darndest Things. And then every single piece of feedback gets discussed within the thread. And that's how like real user feedback gets actioned into like, okay, well, what should we fix? But that's really helpful. So we're always talking to who's using the product the most the week before.
I think you have a very distinct advantage founding a company as a PM because uh, I feel like a lot of times engineers try to solve problems. And what's the first thing they do? They code, right? They don't think about product market fit. They don't talk to users. So can you kind of talk about like how has that PM experience benefited you when it came to making this product?
The thing that, so when I started as a PM, I was very junior. I was right out of school. And so what it meant is that I had no basis to make decisions except for information we were getting from users. And I had an amazing boss at the time who taught me basically two things. The first is your job as the PM is to do anything in your power to make the product succeed. Like, why do companies hire product managers? It's that there's one person who just cares so much and will do whatever it takes to make a certain product or like a certain like revenue line or like whatever it is to make that succeed. And so, so that's sort of one. The other is a great PM is the internal advocate for the users. And that makes everything a lot easier for the PM because you're not having to be like, designer, I don't like this decision. You just come in and you say, hey, a lot of users have this experience. How can we improve that for them? You're just like the internal advocate. Or if an engineer is like, hey, can we cut this scope? You say like, I completely understand where you're coming from. A lot of users are facing this. How do you think we can reconcile that? Like you're just bringing the voice of the user. And so I think when you're starting a company, it's in the beginning, yes, it's you sort of having to execute, but over time, like you start to bring in a team and it's them executing. And if you can just make sure that they're set up to succeed together and that you're bringing in the voice of the user, a lot of things get easier. And so I think that's really where the PM experience really, really helped.
Yeah, too many good quotes in that last section there. I already wrote down like 2 or 3 of them. Like these are awesome. And so, talking about being the voice of the user, um, how long did it take you to grab these 85,000 users? I think you said it was like over the course of something like 2 years.
So yes, it's been under 2 years, but it's been such an interesting journey. So when we started, I used to read. By the way, I hear like feedback. Yeah, is
Yeah,
that
just about to type that. I wasn't sure who it
Oh,
was.
I don't know.
Check,
test
check.
test?
Did it
Echo,
just
echo.
change?
Let me see. Test. Okay, is it okay? I
I
hear
hear
myself
feedback from
when I
you too.
talk, and you hear yourself when you talk.
Testing, testing, testing.
I don't hear James.
But I
You
hear
don't
you
hear me at
from
all?
you. No, we hear
I
you.
don't
We
hear
don't
you
hear.
as feedback.
Oh,
I'm going to mute and we're going to see if the feedback goes away.
spoken like a
Okay.
true PM.
Testing 1,
Team
2,
leader.
testing.
Deep
Okay,
like-
I still hear the feedback.
You said
I'll
you
mute
still
you.
hear it?
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Okay,
think-
we've muted Brad. I still hear feedback. James, your turn.
Okay.
Test,
Okay.
test.
Yeah. Now if we test,
It's
yeah.
perfect.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think you have a speaker on right now, James. We're professionals. Trust us.
Wait, has that been on the whole? Is it off now?
Test.
Testing. Yeah.
Testing.
Sounds
Yeah, that's great.
Wait, that's been on. Oh my gosh, that's been on the whole time.
Oh, funny.
What was it?
Well, because
your Mac.
I had my browser audio coming through my virtual audio source because I was recording a snippet of a YouTube video earlier. So how bad has that been?
It just got. I feel like it just got bad, like in the past minute or two.
Oh no. Oh
Oh,
no.
were
I'm
you
so
recording
sorry.
the resume review of mine?
No, I actually recorded that several days ago and I just forgot
Okay,
to send it to you. We did a live stream of a code review and there's several things in there that made for good video content after the fact. So I just wanted to just play the YouTube video and record it with its audio from my screen and then use it. Oh my gosh, that's been playing this whole time, but somehow it got worse
Yeah.
or it got
Yeah.
noticeable.
It got louder.
So what did you say, Brad? You promised we're professionals?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
We
I
just
need
do
to create
more
a
than
separate-
only podcasting.
That is true. We are professionals at other things. Oh gosh, what a mess. Hopefully, I'm curious to see how this turns out in the end.
Moment of truth.
Hopefully, it's not so bad. I know. Eek. Does anyone remember where we were before
I have no idea.
I so rudely interrupted us?
Oh, I was talking about I was asking about user growth and like what were the big inflection points, let's say. Like were there any decisions y'all made where you saw a big jump in users or usage or anything like that?
Yes. So I used to read like, all the blog posts, how Notion got its first 1,000 users, how Figma got its first 10,000 users. And I would try to figure out like what's going to be our distribution channel. But that's actually not what played out in practice. We're building a collaborative tool. And so what that means is that people are sharing the tool just by using it. Like if a single product manager uses Jam to log bugs for engineers, then all the other PMs see Jam in Slack and Jira. And other engineers engineers will see the Jam and they'll be like, oh, this helped me. And then they'll go and ask other PMs and support engineers and QA engineers to use Jam as well. And so it turns out that for us, it wasn't really about like, how do we grow through marketing? It was how do we make the product very valuable to users such that they'll use it every day and then it will spread itself. And so, in startups, you hear this advice where it's like, first time founders focus on product, second time founders focus on distribution. And like you hear, the best products don't win, the products with the best distribution win. I think that's true in some cases, but when your product grows through PLG, through product-led growth, actually time spent on improving the product is time spent growing the user base too. And so that's actually the most important time we've spent. And the reason why I love that as a founder is because it's so aligned with our users. It means that if we do work that they deem as good, we get to grow. And if we're doing work that they don't deem as good, then there's nothing. And I like being that aligned.
So cool.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I was just taking a look at your pricing page too, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about like how you arrived at the numbers and how you chose to differentiate the different tiers, and obviously what that meant for income and revenue and everything like that.
We're students of Cloudflare. And what we learned at Cloudflare is the joy of having a really generous free tier is a lot of people are helping you improve the product for free because, it's not like if you're not paying something, you don't care. Like you get a lot of great feedback and you get a lot of great adoption. And then for like real enterprise companies who need certain like enterprise company features, they're happy to pay for that. And so we decided to keep the model. And it's fun. It's fun for us also personally because in a startup you work really, really hard. And so the more people who get to use what you're creating, the more sort of rewarding that feels. And so we decided like forever, there's always going to be a free tier. And then only like things that really like real companies need, like a real company needs to integrate with their Jira instance. Like a real company needs like advanced access control for the enterprise. Like then you pay.
Yeah. And those features are always like the hardest to develop because it's normally completely custom, or you need to be able to make these wild adapters that just do like anything a particular company could ever need. And so it makes sense that you got to charge the big bucks for the big guys.
I've got a question on the extension of how it works. So I think you said like after you experience an error, you could press a button and it will go back and get like a replay of the last 30 seconds. Does that mean the extension is like tracking all interactions on a page and it just like keeps the last 30 seconds of those interactions? They can go back and replay it. Does that work? Does it do that automatically on every site? Do you tell it which sites you want it to do it on? How does that work?
So it snapshots the DOM and
Mhm.
any changes in the DOM. So just like if you use Full Story or Hotjar, this is how all these tools work. And it does this locally and just caches those snapshots in browser's local storage. So exactly like if you visit a page, that page gets cached locally. It's just like that. We're just caching the DOM locally. And then only when you decide actively, like you're going to create a Jira ticket from this. So you've previewed the last 30 seconds. You're like, yes, make a Jira ticket. You hit create. Then we package it all up like a video and send it to our servers. So it's all happening locally. You can choose which pages that like to have
use
it.
or not, to track or not. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
How does the actual video get generated? So you
That's what
have
I'm curious about. Like, can
yeah.
you use it? Because you're tracking the DOM, do you also like include the mouse pointer in the video? Because like, if you want the mouse pointer, you're like dramatically increasing the number of frames you're generating, right?
Yes, and then the tricky thing is, well, you don't want to like take up a ton of like browser memory, and
Right,
so
right.
then we do like 30 seconds, or we cap it based on memory, where we would prefer to just like delete data, like delete frames, than have a perfect 30 second always.
Right.
So how does the video get generated? So if you create a jam, and you inspect what you're actually seeing, you'll see it's an iframe with a web page inside it. So we make it look like a video,
So it is
but it's
loading
just
the
the DOM.
page and
Yeah.
then running those same interactions again.
Yes.
Okay. Got it. That's perfect.
So yeah, okay. So you just track like particular DOM events and then replay them at the given
Yeah.
intervals. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. Cool.
There was early on we had a user that their web app made a lot of use of iframes, and it was really important to them that we would include like what's happening in an iframe inside these instant replays. And we're like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense for their use case. And then and then as the user base started growing, most like websites that have a lot of iframes, it's because they have a lot of ads. And so and these iframes are so heavy, it's a whole other website within your website. And one site could have like 20 of these depending on how aggressive they are with ads. And so that was a funny moment where we realized we probably shouldn't support iframes for this feature because of how it is built.
Yeah. Yeah, and aren't there like permissions issues too with accessing stuff inside of iframes? Like, I feel like there's some that can be like locked down for some reason.
I don't know if that's like configurable in the iframe itself. We didn't face that, but that feels like if it didn't grab the iframe.
Okay, so you distribute the app on like, let's say, as a Chrome extension. Do you support? I guess Chrome extensions are pretty much everywhere. Are there any like browsers you haven't been able to tap into?
So we still need to do Firefox and Safari. Those are the next two.
Okay.
I'm really excited for us to do that. For us as an engineering team, it really transforms the way that we need to think about what we're building. So right now, everything is sort of built around, it is a product that is an extension for Chromium-based browsers. And it's all sort of packaged up like that. But once we start distributing in multiple formats where it's like, there's a version for Firefox and it's packaged for Safari and it's packaged for Chromium. And you can imagine like one day in the future, it'll be like packages an SDK for all sorts of different languages and desktop apps and Electron, whatever. So we need to think about like what we're building sort of differently, where it's like, okay, there's like core business logic, and then there's sort of these like wrapper layers on top, and then it gets distributed in a bunch of packages. And so we're just starting to like talk about that internally of how do we want to set ourselves up for that. So anyway, if anyone listening is very interested in being part of that, we are hiring engineers. So jam.dev/careers.
Sweet. Yeah, and that you were kind of like foreshadowing one of my next questions. It's like this seems to be a very browser front end focused extension. Is there any like hopes and dreams to like move this into like Node.js world or other runtimes, backend runtimes?
So backend is super interesting because while Jam captures the bug on the front end, oftentimes so you can see like full network panel request response, but then you want to know like what happened on the server.
On the backend, yeah.
So
Right.
we built a connection to Sentry. So if you use Sentry as your backend logging
I was
provider,
going to ask you about that. Yeah.
yep, you just see your Sentry logs right there. And so that's been super cool. And I'm excited for us to add like Datadog and the others too.
Yeah.
The one packaging that I'm really excited about is for mobile. So, the companies using Jam are like Salesforce, Nike. They're building like real production software. And the state of the art in these companies for PMs who work on mobile products is you take a bunch of screenshots on your phone, and then you airdrop them to your laptop. And then one by one, you go through, try to remember what you were thinking. You like use preview to circle whatever. And then you create a Jira ticket for each one. That's the state of the art. And if you're on Android, then you email them to yourself. And so there's so much, I can't wait. We're currently working on something for mobile. And I'm so excited to just change that workflow for the first time in software history.
Yeah, and what are you targeting first? Like, are you doing like native development, like Swift and whatever the heck Android uses? And
Kotlin.
running blank. Yeah, but yeah, or are you trying to do like a PWA that has access or something like that?
You will see so soon.
Okay, yeah. Can't reveal the secret sauce. Awesome.
I wanted to talk about money, if that's okay. So there's two sections we kind of talked about wanting to get in. One is raising money. We talked a little bit about getting users, but I specifically want to talk more about the community aspect, some of the things you've been doing, which is actually the reason I reached out. Because for context, I just saw that you were doing meetups and I didn't know anything about you. And I was like, this is really cool that you're supporting like local communities. And anyway, sent you a request and here you are, which I'm excited about. So um, anyway, what was kind of the money situation? What is it like to raise money? I think you had like some experience working with a VC, you said. So maybe you've been around that. You're in San Francisco. You probably hear a lot of people that are in the area. What was that process like for you to try and raise money?
So I spent 2 years as a VC, and I've gotten to see, 100 something seed stage founders pitch their startup for investment. And that was so important for us when we went through the process, because how do you ask for money if you've never seen it be done before? And
Hmm.
so I'd love to share with you and your listeners some tips that I always tell like founder friends when they're going out to raise for the first time. And then one caveat, of course, is like the market today is the toughest market it's been for 20 years. And so if you remember, like, do you remember when that ship got stuck in the Suez Canal and then that little digger came out to dig it out? And it was
Hmm.
and all the memes where it was like giant ship, little digger. It's like
Yeah.
really how helpful is this going to be? So I the market is actually the hurdle in today's world. This is just like polish on top. This is about as helpful as that digger. So imagine for a moment that I gave the two of you each like some money to invest. For okay, each of you take 100K and you're going to go invest it in early stage startups. So you
Tell me
go out
more.
and you and you start to meet with a bunch of people building startups, and they're on like day one of the journey. They're really early. It's like, what do you want to hear from them so that you feel confident? Well, like probably they don't have all the answers figured out, but they've thought about things. Probably they love what they're doing. You just feel this like sense of commitment. Probably they have like some hypothesis about why it's going to work. It's like if you think about yourself through that lens, it gets a lot easier to figure out what to say. One one other framework is when you're fundraising as a seed stage startup, you're in the business of delivering a great meeting, because it's kind of like a job interview. The VC is deciding, do I want to work with this person for like 10 years? Because if you're very lucky and you work very hard and your startup is successful, it's going to be like a 15-year journey. And so if they're joining you on day one, they're signing up to work with you like and talk to you every month for the next 15 years. And so one way to think about when you're going out to pitch, it's you're in the business of delivering a great meeting. And so what does that mean? That probably means you shouldn't like screen share your pitch deck, because that just turns the meeting into like webinar mode, where it's like your face, which is so engaging, becomes really small in the corner, and like
Hmm.
a pitch deck, which is not that engaging, becomes the big screen. It probably means that if you can, you should meet in person, because
Yeah,
then
definitely.
you're alive if you
Yep.
can, right? It probably means, here's one, like when you start the meeting, they're going to ask you, how are you doing? And you probably should have an answer prepared that's not good.
I
Probably you
hate,
should tell them
yeah.
something. Yeah.
I hate responding that way, and I think you asked me how I was doing this morning, and I said good, and it bugs me every time, and I usually won't do it, but then I end up thinking, well, how am I really doing? What's really been going on? And I pause awkwardly, and most people assume, oh, something's wrong, but it's because I'm actually trying to think, because I hate just saying good. So that's a great tip of like, just go ahead and plan what your answer is to that, so you're not surprised when you walk in there. That's great.
There's another benefit to it too. So the worst part of every Zoom meeting is like the first 5 minutes where you like discuss where you're both based and what the weather is currently. Um, But if you
Yep.
have, and then if you do that, then you have to like transition to the pitch, which is like, should we talk about my startup? Like it's like, oh,
Hmm.
but if you start off and you've just spent like a minute before the call thinking about what do you want to share that's happening today, and you start off there, then you never have to transition to the pitch conversation. It's already happening. So here's an example. Like you join the call, VC is like, how are you doing? And you say, I'm so excited today because this morning I got to talk to one of our earliest users and they're happy, and
Mm,
nothing makes me happier about that. Like,
that's
can
great.
I tell you how they're using the product?
Yeah, that's so good. Love that. That's so good. Um, it's funny. We had kind of an awkward. pause, and that was because you were talking, and I was just like taking in all these things about talking to VCs and like how do you approach it and stuff. And I have never really been in that situation. I've been interested in potentially like angel investing because I think that would be really cool. But there was a little bit of awkward pause where I was just like taking it in. I didn't know what to say next, to be quite honest, because I was so interested in what you were saying. That said, though, just in honor of time, I want to switch over for just a couple more minutes in the community aspect. And basically, like I said earlier, I just saw that you were posting like we're supporting developer communities. We'll pay for pizza, I think, and it's jam.pizza is the form, which is so great, and the branding around it is good. But what was the thought process and like supporting communities in that way? Is it something that you actually see ROI on? Do you track ROI? Is it just like we're putting out good vibes and we're putting our name associated with it? Ultimately, that will come back to reward us in some way.
Like all great ideas, it started with the domain name.
Yeah.
And it's the latter. We don't know what the ROI will be, but when you start a company, you sort of, by choosing what to work on, you choose who you're going to spend all your time with. That's not something I appreciated up front, and we lucked into it, which is like we get to spend all of our time with builders, and they're the best because every single person in software is like trying to improve some corner of the world, and they're trying to do that through software, and like it's just such an optimistic and like really positive thing to be a part of. We started to do events on our own just to bring out our user base and meet people in person and hopefully meet some new users too. The first event we ever did was off the record engineering horror stories where engineers shared times they took down production. That was awesome.
That's great.
And then we stole that from Segment. They had an event called SegFault. Recently, we've been doing a lot more like tech talks, AI demos, and it's just been so positive, like builders sharing with builders. And so we wanted to support more of that. And so we had the domain jam.pizza, and we realized that's what we should do with it.
How many of those have you run so far? Or like how many meetups have you been able to sponsor?
We launched jam.pizza in January. We've sponsored 16 meetups so far, including those that are sponsored in March. It's everything from like London LLMs group to Berlin product managers to Denver JS or React Denver, Munich JS, just like great meetups happening all over the world.
Man, that's awesome.
I love that.
It's cool. I've been really enjoying like getting to, meet the organizers of these. And also some of them are users of our product. And so getting to support them and them bringing together like tech people all over the world is like, that's really special.
Yep.
I don't know. That gets me so excited. I'm a community person. I mean, obviously Brad, you are too, but that's been a big part of my career since I started at Microsoft, which was fresh out of college as well in 2013. So it's been a long time. That's really amazing to hear. And I get so much energy. I guess I'm the definition of an extrovert, where I get so much energy from being around people versus kind of the restoration from being by myself. There's times where I like the time to myself, but you kind of talked about this earlier, being around VCs and seeing other companies like just solving a problem and realizing that's something that you can do. It sounds like it had that impact for you, but it certainly has been for me, where I see what I'm capable of by seeing what other people are capable of and get inspired by. And a huge part of that is just showing up and being a part of the community. Love it. Well, we can transition into our last section, which is our picks and plugs section. Pick is something that we've enjoyed recently, something we bought on Amazon, read, watched on Netflix, whatever it is. And then a plug is anything that we want to highlight as well. Do either of you want to go first with picks and plugs?
Brad, you go first. No pressure.
I don't have too much this week for picks, but I have been working with Veet a lot because I moved my Remix website over there, and I got to say, Veet's A+. It was easy to get set up. It's super fast. Like, man, local dev server is super fast, and having Remix on Veet is really great. And I feel like I was one of the first users to run the Remix Veet on Vercel because they just released the preset like this week. So I was able to get my website up and running pretty quick. It was easy. There wasn't even documentation yet. So Lee said he was working on that.
That's cool. I put a link. I'll put a link in the chat to the announcement and in our show notes for Remix and Veet.
Oh, yeah.
Brad, I'm curious. So what was Remix using before? Was it Webpack and now it's using Veet? Is that
They had their own like local dev server, and I think it
okay?
was using the ES build under the hood. It was not using
Okay.
Webpack, but they didn't
Okay.
expose any configuration, so it was like pretty
Now it's
tied
a lot
down.
more standardized. Yeah.
Yeah, because they basically just released a Veet plugin called Remix, and then they said,
Okay.
"Yo, now you can also do anything else that Veet offers." Which
Cool.
I'm in the process of taking my entire blog and moving all the file system reads I was doing to pull in my
Hmm.
blog post over to just Veet Markdown imports. So like it pulls it in, does the transform, and
Mm.
now it's bundled into your app. So it's going to get
Ooh.
way faster.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. And that's your pick or your
Pick.
pick. Sorry. And do you have anything you want to share plug wise?
Uh, Plug, I guess we'll just say go check out my Twitter, say what's up, twitter.com/Brad Garapi.
Cool. Danny, do you want to go next or you want me to kill some time?
Oh, no, for sure. Happy to. I have two picks. Is that allowed?
Absolutely.
So the first is I just finished a book called Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. Have either of you read it?
Mm.
It was lovely. I was sad when it was over. It's fiction. It's about two friends who start a video game company together. It's about building a company. It's about friendship. It's about life. It was lovely. The second pick I have is like probably everyone listening, you're trying to stay on top of what's happening in AI so that, when cool stuff launches, you can build cool things with it. One YouTube channel I've been watching a lot recently to do that is Matt Wolf's channel. He's so great. He does these like week in AI recaps. They're fast. They're like, he just hits exactly like, these were the important things. Highly recommend.
Nice. I'm
Sweet.
furiously trying to grab all these links while you're doing that. So I'm looking up that channel and I'll put it in the chat and we'll have it in the show notes. Is there anything that you want to plug other than just the jam.dev website?
Well, if you go use Jam at jam.dev, I'd love to hear what you think of it. Like if suggestions, ideas, or even just to say hi. My email is danny@jam.dev. Reach out anytime. I love talking to the builders who are building with Jam.
Sweet. Love it. Very cool. All right. I think I put those. All right, I'll do something that I bought recently. My wife and I started playing golf back in 2020. It was kind of our COVID thing. It was an easy way to not be around people but still get outside and be active. And we haven't been able to play as much recently for different reasons. We have a 9.5-month-old, so that's a big part of it. Um, but one of the things that I got, two things, but the thing I'm picking is a golf net for hitting at home. And there's a lot more expensive versions of this, and there's a lot of them that like require more setup and other things. But this one, like you put it together and you don't have to like stake it into the ground or anything, and it's like very stable and it catches like even if I hit many shots bad, it catches them, and it's been really nice. And so the other aspect of that is my wife got me like it's a lot more expensive, but a golf shot tracker so it can actually like simulate or show me on my phone through the app like where the shot is going based on hitting into the net. So it's like a whole relatively cheap setup to be able to do like a kind of my own driving range at home in my garage. So if you see me disappear from Discord for 30 minutes around lunchtime, I'm either eating or like hitting into the golf net. And I really enjoyed it and it works really well and it just sits inside of our garage. So that's been a lot of fun to play with. And then I will pick plug the Learn Build Teach Discord. And specifically, there's a project that we've been working on called Deals for Devs. And it's a platform where we list out the best deals for developers, tools, courses, ebooks, conferences, that sort of thing. And what we've basically turned it into is a community led project. So my original idea was to like build this and make money from it through referral links and and sponsorships and other things. And so many people have been interested in opportunities just to learn what it's like to be a part of a real project and contribute. We've turned it into that. And then I think we'll just like, if we make any money, we'll just use it to do more in the Learn, Build, Teach community specifically. But it's been super cool to have people be a part of that and be really interested in it. So join the Learn, Build, Teach Discord if you're interested in general. And then if you're specifically interested in participating in Deals for Devs, you can send me a DM and I'll add you access to the private channel that we have to discuss issues and features and that sort of stuff. So check it out at learnbuildteach.com.
How many folks are working on that right now?
We've probably got 15 that have joined the channel. We've had 5 or so people create a PR already. And just for context, this is a lot of like very early devs. So several people were reaching out, like I said, of like, I really just want experience of working on something like, I mean, this is not a huge application, but like something real world ish. And anyway, it's just been so cool. I've never really done much open source maintaining. So we've been adding like Kanban boards as a project in GitHub. We're tracking statuses, trying to do better at defining issues, getting processes for how people create PRs. It's been a really fun experience. It's given me a lot of energy and excitement as well. So cool. All right, that is gonna do it for this episode. If you're listening in podcast after the fact and you enjoyed the episode, make sure to leave us a rating and review so that we can continue to have on amazing guests like Dani and do more episodes on web development and design with a little bit of zest. In the meantime, that's all we got. Cool. All right, I'm gonna end the stream. If anyone is listening, thanks for hanging out with us. Appreciate it. Good to see you all. We actually won't be back next week. We'll be back Friday with Kent C. Dodds to talk about the Epic Stack. And then we're taking next week off for spring break, basically for you all. And then my wife will be in London and I will be on baby duty by myself. I will not have as much time to do as many things as I might want to. So we'll be off next week, but we'll see everyone the week after.